Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We've seen war. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Join Terry with Tracer Rounds every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern to hear interviews with veteran artists, veteran business owners, and businesses that support veterans. Catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and MB Radio. If you miss a show, you can listen again on Wreaths Across America Radio every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Tune in to see if you are on target. MBR, giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
And we're back. So this is the Tracer Rounds podcast, and I'm Terry, your host, and you're on Military Broadcast Radio, where we're giving veterans a voice. And tonight's voice is to Chris Whittemore, who is a veteran, and he's also an author. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So excited to have you on the program. So I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about your military service. I know it relates directly to your book, but can you just give us a little bit of context on your service and what you did in the military?
Absolutely. So I ended up retiring, medically retiring out of the Marines after just over 16 and a half years, we'll say. After 6 deployments, things like that, my body had enough and it was time to go. I initially joined way back when we had pagers and things like that back in the 90s, and got lucky and got stationed in Hawaii for that first tour. After that, I met my wife. We moved to Houston, which we're still married to this day. December of this year will make I'm going to get in trouble 27 years together. So thank you. And during my first 4 years, I was in the infantry. When we got back to Houston, it was really hard to find my little niche, being out of the Marines. And I said, I finally ended up joining the Texas State Troopers, where I was a state trooper for about 2 years. And after several wrecks and things like that, and just not really finding me, and the Iraq war just kicked off again. I told my wife I wanted to rejoin in June of 2004. And I made the worst mistake ever and went to the recruiting office and said, I don't care where you send me, what job you give me. I just want back in the Marines and I want to go right now. Train wreck, right from the get-go. The recruiter, of course, had a huge smile on his face. He's like, "I got the perfect place for you."
Of course. Yes.
And I'm thinking, "Oh, we're going to go back to Hawaii. This is going to be great. You know, my wife will be able to chill on the beach while I'm doing the military thing." And I kind of wanted to go back into the infantry anyway. I had some unfinished business, if you will. And the orders came back and they said, "Yep, you're going in the infantry, but you're going to 7th Marines in 29 Palms." And I was, both looked at my wife and she's like, "Where is that?" I said, "I have no idea where this is." And the recruiter just walked up to the map and put a little pin right in the middle of the desert. He's like, "That's where it is." And I'm like, "Wow, this is going to be insane." So, June, it was time to go. We loaded up and made the, I don't know, probably 3-day drive out to 29 Palms, where I joined up with a unit that was just coming back from Iraq. And even though I had 4 years, I was the new guy, to the unit. So they were like, that kind of thing. Once everything's, picked back up, I started out with a combined like a CAT team, as they call it, a combined anti-armor team. And I was like, okay, this is fun, but I've already done this. I did this for 4 years. I'm not getting any younger. By this point, 25-ish. And it just so happened that the Scout Sniper team was having an NDOC tryout to join them. And I said, well, okay, that's going to be amazing, because we've all seen the Tom Berenger sniper movies, because that's all realistic, things like that.
Right, of course, yeah.
And I, jumped at that opportunity, and that definitely ignited a crash course into what I thought I knew about certain things was not even nearly what it was really going to be like. And I trained with them for, I don't know, 7-8 months at best. And they told us, hey, in September of 2005, you guys are deploying to Ramadi, Iraq, which, at the time, I was just thinking, well, Iraq is Iraq. We've all seen the news. We've all seen the bombings, kind of what to expect.
Right.
Until we got there. And right from the get-go, and I kind of allude a little bit in the book about some of the stuff that took place right off the bat. I mean, it was from, I think we were in Iraq for less than a week, probably before we took our first KIA at Camp Ramadi, and then we went out into the city. And little did we know, the city of Ramadi had never had an elected official. It was blacklisted for like low flying aircraft. They had to remain at 1,500 feet. And to me, it felt like I was playing a Call of Duty video game almost. I mean, it was just jets flying over, explosions, just 7 months of relenting, just carnage and chaos, and seeing the worst of humanity. Not to mention, we were going through all of the holidays. We were going through the wedding anniversary. We were going through just all these, like my wife's birthday. Everything was happening like within the first 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And it was just a nightmare. Luckily, unscathed on the outside, we returned back to 29 Palms, which desert to desert, it was kind of a cool transition. The scenery didn't change too much. And then in 2007, I redeployed to Iraq in Fallujah this time, and more of the same. It wasn't nearly as kinetic, but it was there was a lot of stuff going on back home. My wife lost her grandfather. She moved back to Houston. There was just a lot of things like going on.
Yeah.
And as time progressed, we ended up going, we lost a bunch of people in 2007, came back, joined HMLA 369 as a helicopter door gunner, because I was like, well, I don't want to hike anymore. My knees and back are getting messed up. I will go kneel on a helicopter and spin wrenches, because that's going to work perfectly. Little did I know that wasn't going to help at all. It was actually going to make it worse. But what I found out once I got to that squadron was they were the helicopter squadron flying above us um, in Ramadi in '05. So it was kind of like coming full circle a little bit
Yeah.
and meeting some of the pilots who were there before. They knew a lot of the people that I knew from the infantry side. So I was hoping like maybe I'll hide from my past problems in this new place. This will be fun. No, because it was like, hey, guess what? We know all these people, let's talk about this stuff. And I'm like, no, I don't really want to. But it's just kind of a I don't know, like this different little walk through chaos for like the next 8-9 plus years. In 2010, we deployed to Afghanistan, and some of the intro video, I was like, oh, that's I know exactly where that is. And we were there from May to November 2010, and we almost got to 10,000 flight hours before the general was like, nope, you guys are done. We're going to shut you guys down. And little did I know. I mean, I'm just like infantry guy. I'm like, there was no, you flew too much. You get out there and go on patrol. Like, get out of here. But for the pilots, we all had to stand in this big formation. I don't know, 120 degrees outside, and the flight surgeons literally walking around, checking our names off, saying, "Hey, are you good with signing this waiver?" And I'm like, "I don't know, whatever, cool." Like it's a waiver. And we never once went into the red back in the States. We were in the red within 2-3 weeks, flying probably 4 or 5 missions a day, quick reaction force to the ground units. And that's where things got really weird again, because all my past battalions, 2-7, 3-7, were on the ground fighting below us. And now I was flying above them, which, hearing all the, oh, we lost somebody, or this happened or that happened. I was like, oh no, trying to figure out if I knew the people or not. It was just craziness. Got home in November, January or February, they came to me and said, congratulations, you're going on recruiting duty. And I was like, what? So, like off I went to recruiting duty. And that's kind of when my body started finally catching up. Because, once you start sitting down and slowing down, things start to hurt more.
Yes, that's true.
And I think that's what happened. Ended up having, a back surgery, sinus surgery, a lot, TBI treatments, all kinds of stuff. And in July of 2015, they finally said enough was enough, and you're going to be medically retired. And the journey was over, which was kind of hard to swallow, because I was like, oh, I don't want to be done, but at the same time, I was like, okay, I'm done. It's time, and things like that. And now I'm kind of here. I've done a few other jobs since getting out. I was a Veterans Treatment Court case manager for the county here. I got to work for about 2.5 years as a VA claims rep with the county, helping veterans do VA claims and stuff like that.
Right.
And now I'm actually the case manager for the entire JBS at Joint Base San Antonio medical board population. All the service members who are going through the med board come see me, and I help guide them through the transition process to make sure that they transition successfully. Unlike what I did, the transition back then was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, retired Friday. Now they have about 7 months worth of transition help that we make sure that they're ready to get out and things like that.
That's great. I mean, there's a lot of us and a lot of veterans that don't transition well. I mean, even if you're just reservist, you still need a transition. Because I was a reservist, and I know you're active duty, and they do more things for retirees or medically retirees on the active side. it doesn't seem like they do a lot on the reserve side. Maybe my case is just different. I don't know, but I'm so glad that you're in that position to help people, because, we really don't know what we don't know about being retired or being medically retired for that matter. And what we need to be aware of, to take the best advantage for ourselves and going forward, because, once you're retired, that's it. Like, your support system kind of goes away and you're figuring things out on your own. I mean, the VA still helps you and still treats you, but you're still kind of navigating some of those waters by yourself. So it is nice to have, somebody to help you out.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so great to see what it is that supposedly has been around for a long time. But I said, well, the last 16 years, I had no idea about any of this stuff.
Right.
And they're really, ever since the John McCain Act of FY19, everything jump started, because even if they're retiring or just doing 4 years and getting out, they have to start the transition process. Is it 18 to 24 months out? They have to, or their name goes red on a spreadsheet that gets put up to the commanders and then the generals, all that snowball effect downhill. So even with people, I'm going to re-enlist, they have to at least come and see us so we can get them, saying that, hey, we talked to this individual, this is what his game plan is, which they don't like, but I think is really good, because they have to actually start thinking about it, because they might want to re-enlist, but then 6 months later, they're like, no, I don't want to do that. But if they didn't start, now they're way behind the power curve.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll pick it up from there. And so I think we're going to play Coffee Anderson, Mr. Red, White, and Blue.
It's the guts and it's the glory, 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes, hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop, and his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line. flashing light. Hey. Hey.
The station where our veterans' voices are heard, MBR Talk.
Find us on the web at nbradio.us.
And welcome back to the Trace Arounds podcast. And I'm Terry. And with me tonight is Chris Whittemore. And he is the author of Terror to Triumph. And so we were kind of talking about your story before the break about your military service. And then, so now we're kind of leading up to maybe where you're starting to write this book. I've got a copy of a picture of it so people can see it right quick. I'll put it up on the screen so they can see the book. Where'd that cover come from? I think that's really cool.
It's the front picture of the service member looking down is actually a picture that was taken by one of my friends that I have no idea when he would have done it, when we were coming back off of a mission.
Yeah.
And we were walking back through base, and probably one of those little wind up disposable cameras that I don't think even exist anymore. They like tucked away in a museum, like an artifact or something. But and then the rest of the stuff, I wanted to tie in the helicopter, being that I was a helicopter crew chief for a few years, and then the guy kneeling down inside the crosses just from the infantry era, and then the memorial aspect of the cemetery, things like that as it fades away, just because, we've all lost so many people throughout, the military the last 20 plus years. So I just kind of wanted to tie everything together, especially with that quote, the hardest things are what we, what we face when we get back home, I think is what it kind of ties together. And just wanted to be, I just wanted something that would grab people's attention if they saw it. And, hopefully it does the trick. So
yeah, and I saw a little intro video too that was kind of announcing the book, and that's pretty dramatic and dynamic, and it really grabbed me. I was like hoping I could like download it to put it on the show so that other people could see it, but it's really cool. I really like that too. That was really good marketing, I think, there.
Yeah, and I can definitely send that to you once we're done tonight, if you want me to.
Yeah, please. That's awesome. So how did you start writing the book, or why did you write the book? What was your intent when you wrote it?
The intent initially started out simply as a way to remember. I guess as we unfortunately get older, we can't stop the clock, but by mixing with the TBIs, there was a lot of memories that were starting to, I used to be able to account for, on 5 steps in, this happened, that happened. And as things progressed, I started forgetting them. And my wife really encouraged me to write stuff down. She's like, you need to write it down, if for nothing else, to simply just have a record. And when you can't remember something, you can always go back and read it. And I said, okay. Finally stopped being stubborn and started just writing. Started from the beginning, joined of the 90s and things like that as it progressed. And, right around that time also, COVID hit, shut the whole world down for 2+ years.
Yes, it did.
And as I was writing, I was like, well, I don't have much of an excuse not to write. My commute now is about, 40 steps to my kitchen table. I didn't have to go anywhere. And so I started writing, and before I knew it, it was what it is now, almost 270 pages. And at first, I wanted to write the book, but I didn't want to write another war book because there's just so many out there. And for those who have it out there and they love those kind of books, that's awesome. Nothing bad about them, but I wanted to kind of touch on stuff that no one wanted to talk about, especially not in that era.
Yeah.
And that was what happens to the families, what happens to the service members. Why are they, why do we come home and, isolate away or drink ourselves to sleep or afraid to be in a car driving in traffic? What is, the very unpopular non-glamorous Hollywood stuff. I wanted to, and then shed some light on what the families go through dealing with us when we return. And my pace, back home, I think I redeployed within less than a year just because I wanted to be back over there because it was easier.
Yeah.
After completing the book, I sent it, my wife not nagged on me, but she's like, send it in. And I was like, but there's so many books out there that are war books. And I figured my book would be no different. But I, submitted it in 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks later, excuse me. The publishing company called me back up and said, hey, we read your manuscript and absolutely love it. We want to publish it. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And I often joke with people, and if you would have told me back in 2008, hey, you're going to write a book, I'm like, yeah, right. I just want to survive a deployment. Forget writing a book.
Right.
And yeah, so it's come out and it has done really well. I just recently hired a marketing firm to take over the, kind of like revive it and get it back out in front of a lot of people correctly. And so far, just in the month of August, it just broke 100 sales for August, which is unbelievable. Would have never in a million years thought that was going to happen. And I also got 3 book signings that I'm going to be doing at 3 Barnes and Noble bookstores, one in Dallas, one in Houston, and one right outside of Fort Hood up near Killeen, that's insane too. Like I was like, I'm not Stephen King, I'm not anything like that. Book signings, yeah, right. That's impossible. But sure enough, they called and they've read part of the book, and they're like, yeah, we want you to come up here. And especially being right outside of military bases and all of that, like, we want you to do a book signing. I'm like, wow, okay. What, things like that. And it's just been a wild ride, and I guess my biggest ambition for the book was to really shine the light into those dark corners of all of our minds. It's like, what, we survived what we survived. It's natural, or it should be natural, that we have some sort of effect from that. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't feel anything from it. And it's like, well, you're good at hiding, because yes, you do. Like, you'd be a psychopath if you didn't,
Right.
And my favorite quote that I put up on all of my, when I start teaching these transition classes is, it's okay to not be okay. And I truly believe that the more people talk about it and, don't frown down on people for seeking help, I think the better off the military, the better off the world will be. It's kind of like, and I ask people who are like, well, I only deployed once, or I only deployed twice, or I went to, wherever. I was on a ship or something like that for 8 months or something like that. And, saw all of this, and people got hurt and things like that, or doctors and nurses seeing trauma daily.
Right.
Or during COVID, I couldn't even imagine what that must have been like as a nurse or a doctor. And I often ask them, I'm like, well, what about Oklahoma City? That bombing happened in a day. And the cleanup was expensive, but that was a one-day deal. And then as long as it took for them to clean up, 9/11, how long, all of that chaos. And I'm like, is it okay? And I ask them, it's like, is it okay for them to have trauma and have mental health issues? Like, yeah, of course. I'm like, then why is it not okay for you, who've done 6 deployments and you spent 42 months in a war zone like myself? And why is that not okay? And there's not a whole lot of answers to it, but that's kind of what I wanted to use the book for, is really open up people's eyes and, learn from my mistakes. Don't wait until 16 and a half years into your military career to finally start seeking help, because it's never too late. But I could have done so many different things, I would imagine, if I would have just bucked against the stigma and, took on, who knows, but I'm glad that the book is helping people, and they're, maybe they can relate, and maybe it can pull them out of a dark place. And, if we save one, that's all that matters.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I joined too, I mean, if you were hurt in any way, you didn't say anything because you got in trouble for saying something. So it wasn't even just, let alone mental health stuff. They didn't want to
Yeah.
hear any of that. Now they ask you about that. Are you having any thoughts of this? Are you having any thoughts of that? Have you had any episodes where you've had a panic attack? I mean, just different things are asking those questions now, and they never did before. Before, if you said you wanted to go to sick call or anything like that, they're like,
Yeah.
you're fine. Just suck it up. You're fine.
Mhm.
Just suck it up.
Here's some motion. Go change
Yeah.
your thoughts.
Right. Here's a sugar pill. We're going to tell you something else with a sugar pill, and go ahead. You're going to be fine.
That is so true. So true.
So I'm really glad that now, people are able to get help with whatever it is. If it's, mental health help that's needed, or if it's just physical help, because before, you couldn't admit you were hurt. You admit you're hurt, they put you out, and you didn't want to be put out. So you're like, no, I'm good.
Yep.
And you're not, and you weren't, but you wanted to stay in. So you just did what you could, or did what you had to stay in.
Yeah. And it was so, it's so weird the way things were then to the way they are now. It's still frowned upon, but I've got guys who come in there that have been in the military almost 30 years, and their medical book is like the size of a manila folder that you might see at a business office. I mean, it's paper thin, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So I urge them, I'm like, you have to go to medical. Like, otherwise you're not going to get a VA rating. You're going to struggle for the rest of your life. And it's time to take care of yourself. And I think that one little piece is so hard for some of these people who've been around for a while, because they're so used to taking care of the 80 plus underneath them. They're like, I'm not taking care of myself. I'm taking care of them.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing struggle with those guys. So hopefully, more and more will start, being pushed into going to medical, because it's not, oh, you're going to medical, you're weak.
Right.
It's, you're going to medical, oh, good, you're taking care of yourself. And that's great to see that it's come such a long way.
Yeah.
In 05, 06, 07, I guess 04 to 2012-ish, like, don't be the guy, because you're going to go away. You're going to go to another unit. You're going to go to another piece, because there's just no time to deal with it, because you're getting ready for the next deployment. And that's what was so sad back then who knows what could have been different for so many people. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is full circle, like you said, because, now they want you to take care of yourself. And before, you're like, no, you're fine. You're fine. Don't worry about it. But now, because I didn't have a lot to do with the VA, but I know that a lot has changed with the VA. Because I remember when I first went for just some simple thing, they didn't want to treat you. And now they're like, well, come on in, let's help you. What do you need? Like, it's totally different. At least in the area I'm in, it's different. I can't speak to all the VAs, but the treatment for soldiers or airmen, whoever, Marines, is it's different than it used to be. And, they're finally starting to really embrace taking care of the troops.
No, absolutely. And as a VA claims person, we used to bring in all sorts. And probably the greatest one that ever came in, and I'll never forget this guy ever. And I only knew him for, I don't know, 3 hours maybe. But he came in, he was an older gentleman, huge smile on his face with his little photo book. And I'm like, okay, like, this will be an interesting one. Like, let's see what this guy brings to the table. And he pulls out this DD-214 that, remember, like, the typewriters, and it's like that little carbon copy.
Yes.
Like, that was his DD-214. I'm like, I don't want to touch it. This thing's going to disintegrate. And he did 2 tours in Vietnam, 1 tour in Korea during the Korean War. Mm-hmm. And he was 96 doing his first VA claim.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I was so excited that I got to help him.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting him diagnosed and rated for a few conditions. He got rated at 100%, which I'm like, I don't see how you could not get this guy to 100% with everything. But the only reason he wanted to do it was because he wanted to take care of his wife when he passed away. And sadly, about 8 months after his rating got approved, he ended up passing away. And it was just like, oh, but it's such I try and encourage so many people to do the claim. It's frustrating. It's a headache. It's bureaucracy. It's documentation.
Yeah.
But I've even created my own LLC titled after the book, Tear to Triumph LLC. And I ask, people call me all the time and say, hey, I want to submit a claim. How do I do it? What do I need? And stuff like that. And I walk them through that process. And because I want them to not have to get hooked up with some of these agencies that charge 30% of their increase or thousands of dollars to help them. And
Right.
So I do it. And they ask me all the time, they're like, well, how much do I owe you? And I'm like, you don't owe me anything. Like it was 20 minutes. Like I'm not a doctor or a lawyer. I can spare 20 minutes. And the biggest piece is either they weren't seen in the military for whatever reason, or they haven't been seen since they've been out of the military. And now it's a struggle to do, to correlate. Like, yes, you were in the infantry for 20 years and you've been in construction for 5 years and your back needs to be fused in like 8 places. Well, yeah, that's probably a lot to do with the military. And that's what these agencies are doing, is they're basically buying medical appointments for these guys to go to have this doctor pen whip. Yes, this is service connected. When all they need to do is see their regular doctor, have them put this condition is, in my opinion, is due to service. And that's the end of it.
Wow.
And then the claim process is super easy and quick. And if anyone ever wants to reach out to me or anything like that, or has questions, I'd be more than happy to communicate with them back and forth, phone call, email, whatever, and help them get through that process so they're not getting taken advantage of.
Wow. Well, thank you. That's a great offer. If anybody needs help, be sure to hit him up. We'll take a quick break and then we'll be right back. We're going to play Joe Muse, American Dream.
We're living the American dream. I'm the American dream. Go to school, go to work, Sunday mornings choose a church, attend our games, our plays, PTAs. Drive our cars, flying planes, take the buses, take the trains, walk the beach, ski the slopes, living out our dreams and hopes. We're living, yes, we're living the American dream. We're the American dream. Thank you, soldier, sailor, Airman, Guardsman, and Marine. Thank you all for fighting for our freedom and our dreams, protecting our Constitution, guarding our homes and towns, defending our shores, seas, and skies, and putting boots on the ground. Some gave all for me and you. We served the red, white, and blue, protecting the American dream. Living Christ, many creeds and one big race, staking my claim to the Creator. We have to find a way for each to still be different but live in peace. Till then, we must protect ourselves, 'cause we're living, yes, we're living the American dream. I'm the American dream. We're the American dream.
The station where our veterans' voices are heard, MBR Talk.
Find us on the web at nbradio.us.
And welcome back to the podcast, The Tracer Rounds on Military Broadcast Radio, where we're giving veterans a voice. And tonight's voice is to Chris Whittemore, and he is the author of Terror to Triumph. It's a story of his service and about his homecoming. So what's next for you now that you've written this book? What do you have on the horizon? I know you said you've got some book signings, but do you got more books in you, or what are you trying to
do? Interesting enough, there is a few more books on the way. There was I came across one of those green little squad leader notebook things, and digging through some boxes, and it was chocked full of all these different poems and things like that. So I was like, well, why not? And so I ended up doing a poetry book, and it's also out on Amazon. It's called Echoes of Valor, Verses from the Front Lines. And so that's out there. And there's a third book being worked on now. It's kind of a fiction / nonfiction blend, kind of like actual events that took place, but the characters are made up a little bit. And it kind of ties about a young kid growing up in the military lifestyle like I did. My father was in the Navy, and they were always gone, and kind of the struggles that kids face and how you can face adversity and come out the other side okay. And then I just sent a fourth book, believe it or not, to a traditional publisher, a literary agent. And it's going to be Whispers Through the Fog, and it's a fantasy thriller or something like that. So it's it's just been it's wild. I don't know.
That's pretty cool. So what kind of a thriller is it? Like, what is it, like machines, or is it like futuristic? Like,
it's like a suspense thriller, like a young kid comes home from school to find his house in shambles with blood all over the walls, and all he sees is tire tracks leading into the surrounding woods, and how he has to travel through the woods by himself at 14 and find all these clues to rescue his family before it's too late. Kind of like a mystery thriller kind of thing.
Yeah.
But kind of like what we were talking about, though, if someone would have said that this was going to be my reality, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. There's absolutely no way. And it's been a great outlet just to write. And I tell people, find an outlet, whether it's drawing, writing, playing music, whatever it is, find something that you can find joy in, no matter what it is, because it's such a great world out there once you get out of that cloud, and you can kind of see like the good again, because for so long we saw evil, or watch the news all the time, and it's like, ugh, more of the same, like rinse and repeat. And it's weirdly enough too that the first book, when it first came out, a good buddy of mine who lives up in New York picked it up thinking like, oh, this is a book about Iraq. I'll be able to unload my own trauma. And as it turns out, he's like, wait a minute, I served with this guy back in Hawaii in the 90s. And so he reached out and he shared a story with me recently. He said, for 16 years, my me and my kids were estranged. Like they didn't understand why I was who I was, why I acted the way I acted. Went through my second divorce, all of this stuff. And then he sent my wife and I a Christmas card of all of them being back together, holding the book. And he said that the book kind of opened their eyes to like, oh, now we get it. And it's slowly rebuilding their relationship. And I tell him, I say, it has nothing to do with the book, man. It's just time. But if the book is helping in that way, that's amazing.
That is amazing. I mean, I do think it is the book. I mean, because when someone that doesn't understand that whole soldier mentality or what you faced, and they read the stories and understand what you went through, it adds a layer of compassion or a layer of understanding that they didn't have before, because they don't know what they don't know either about conditions, about what your mind goes through, about how you kind of have to like separate yourself from your family in order to deploy, because you can't take on all that worry, because then you're not effective where you're going. So you
Very true.
kind of like it's almost like a divorce. You got to separate yourself from your family, even though you don't want to. But that's really what you have to do in order to do your job, because if you don't do that, then your mind's going to be pulled different ways, and then you're not going to be focused on the mission at hand. So, it really gives a level of understanding to families and to other people that, are part of a soldier or Marine or airman's life, and, kind of gives them something to, go, oh, I understand now. It makes sense. So I think it is helping. So I think your book is doing that.
Yeah. And I have such a hard time being, I guess everyone says they're like, you're way too humble. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just really happy that the book was out. And a lot of people have said, I'm so thankful that someone actually wrote this book about this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why didn't you write it if you wanted this book so bad? But I guess it's I'm just so glad that book is out. I was apprehensive at first because a lot of those stories are my stories. You know what I mean? And
very personal.
Very personal. And now they're being shared with the masses. And it's great to hear all the success stories. Or it made me think of that place again. And I'm like, I get that. It's not a picture book by any means, but it's hopefully people will give it a chance and pick it up and take the chance and read it. I think they might be surprised finding out that it's not a war book. It's more about like, yes, this is what happened on the deployments, but this is the more important aspect of what happened when we got home. And
it's about relationships.
Yeah, very much so with anyone, family, friends, that they may have not even realizing it pushed so many people away. And this book might be that push to get them back together.
MJ says that's so healing. She has a show on Mondays, the World of Conscious Positive Thinking at 9 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Eastern. And so she talks a lot about, how therapies and what you can do to heal yourself or help others heal. It's basically, like you said, it's doing some kind of hobby, something that really gets your mind focused on something else. And as you work through and process your own emotions around whatever that might be.
For sure. And I forgot to mention this, as of today, which I'm so glad it's finally back out and people will leave me alone about this. The Audible version on Audible ACX, whatever it's called now, is officially back up. So anyone who likes the Audible and would rather just listen instead of reading, or maybe they just can't focus on pages or something like that, they are in luck because the Audible version is up. And things like that. So, they don't have to, they can get it on the Kindle e-reader thing, which I can't figure out. So I'm not a technology person. So, or paperback, hardback, or Audible. It's all on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, things like that. And
I picked mine up on Amazon But so for the Barnes and Noble, you're going to be in Dallas. So I'm going to try to come see you because I live in the area.
Oh,
So
great.
whenever you come up for the signing, I'll try to bring my book and maybe get you to sign it, and then just give you a handshake and a thank you for what you're doing, because not only is your book doing good things, but you personally are doing good things to help veterans kind of heal or just process or just kind of learn the process. Because like we were talking about, not enough veterans or those that are getting ready to retire and either just do basic retirement or medical retirement, because there's a lot that goes along with both. And just having you to kind of guide them through that and just, be a sounding board and be a person of information for them, that's big.
For sure. And the one up in Dallas is going to be Prestonwood Center, I think.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to be, is the Barnes and Noble right there. So yeah, I mean, I would be, completely honored to meet you in person and definitely sign the book
Thank you.
and things like that. That'd be my pleasure. It would be great to meet anyone else who, wants to come up and even just say hi. I think it would be really great to, have a big crowd or, for sure. So that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. So are you doing one in San Antonio? Because you said you're in that area. Are they having one there for you too? Because I know you said Houston and you said Fort Hood and then Dallas.
And I'm hoping that these three go well, and then I can get San Antonio on board, because there's like 3 or 4 of them around the city.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really neat. I'm just waiting on some flyers to show up with the QR code to take it right to Amazon. And I'm going to try and go around and see if they'll put it up and see if I can get a book signing set up, especially around the holidays coming up and things like that. People still go and buy books.
Yes.
And things like that. And I think it would be neat to, have I'm already booked for one right around the Marine Corps birthday, or I'd be like, that'd be perfect. But, it's definitely trying to hit right around the paydays, which will, generate people wanting to actually go to a bookstore maybe, and things like that. But yeah, that's definitely the next on the list, and to get these other books, published and things like that with a great group that I found by weirdly mistake. But if you are definitely a person who wants to publish a book and you want an editor, it's called Novel House Publishing, and they're absolutely phenomenal. Their rates are second to none, and they will walk you through the entire process, start to finish. So they're great people if anyone's interested in doing that as well.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. We've got probably about 7 minutes left. So I would just wonder if there's anything else that I didn't ask you about that you wanted to talk about, or anything you wanted to share that may help someone else work through their own trauma or, their mental health. Is there anything that you'd want to say to just kind of let the audience know?
I think the biggest thing is it's okay to not be okay. It really is. It's a natural thing to have feelings. Otherwise, go lock yourself up in a prison because you're the next Ted Bundy. Whatever that trauma might be. And especially if you're a caregiver and you are the medical aid to a service member or a spouse or whatever, you need to remember to take care of yourself, because there's so many caregivers that burn out. They end up, joining the 22 a day, and they're not able to separate themselves, and they still need to find a way to separate themselves. As hard as it is, you've got to take care of yourself. And if you're getting out of the military, please, 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 please go get seen. Because if it's not in writing, you can be as mad as you want at the VA. You're just not going to get rated for anything because you have to have the evidence. But that's really the big thing is take care of yourself. No one's going to take care of you better than you. It's just one of those weird things. And people in the military think like, oh, I'm the most important cog in the big machine. It's like, yes, you're an important cog, but the military keeps rolling once you're out of the military. It's not going to stop just because you're out. And try and focus on that, and that way you can, you don't feel so bad stepping away and getting seen and start taking care of yourself. I mean, most of these people are so young. They're coming out of the military after 20 plus years, 18, 28, 30, 42, 43 years old. They've got their whole life ahead of them.
Right.
But they're barely able to walk, but they don't think anything's wrong with them. They just think, oh, it's because of the years in the military. Well, yeah, but something's clearly wrong. Don't wait like me to have a disc replacement surgery or knee scopes and all this other stuff. Get seen now, and your life will be so much better for it. And you'll be much happier because you'll have your VA claim approved, especially if you deployed to Iraq, anywhere where there's a burn pit. There's a laundry list of conditions on the PACT Act website. And if you have a claimable condition that's diagnosed not by Dr. Google, but by an actual doctor, the VA will not deny that claim because it's presumptive with the burn pits, and it's automatically approved. You just have to have the diagnosis from a doctor of that said condition, and take it from there.
Wow, that's good information. So if anybody needs assistance with filing a claim, Chris is your guy. So is there anything, or I was going to ask you another question, but I want to ask this one instead. So from your military service, what is your biggest takeaway?
Biggest takeaway from the military is, oh my goodness, definitely, oh man, that is a tough one. I would definitely say overcoming what I did in the military with all the deployments, all of the carnage, all of the heartache and the losing friends and, all of that stuff. And, hitting rock bottom multiple times, and then still finding my way to stand myself back up. And I absolutely love that Kofi Anderson, Red, White, and Blue song. It's probably one of my favorite. I play it so much. If it was a cassette tape from back in the day, it would probably be worn out and broken by now. But I think it's just stay resilient, just like you people do in the military and outside. No one's going to have perfect days every day, but whatever you need to do, just open up, be like a book. Like my book is out there now. It's my whole life story kind of wrapped up in 200 and something pages. And it's, if I can do it, I can bounce back and things like that. No one else should feel that they can't either. They just may have to find a new way to do the same thing, but there's hope out there, and they just need to find that hope and keep moving forward.
I agree. And I think you're pretty resilient to have gone through all you've gone through and come out and write a book and impact so many people in so many ways. And so I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. I know it was kind of weird. I reached out to you on Instagram, but I was like, I just have to hear this story. I just need to talk to this guy. You just drew me in with the title, with the cover of the book. And then when I started reading into it, I'm like, oh gosh, I just have to have this gentleman on. I have to hear his story. So I want to thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your story with us and your life with us, basically. And then we'll be looking for the other books to come out, and we'll be hopefully attending some of those book signings. So.
Yeah, that would be amazing. The book signing is October 11th up at Prestonwood.
All right.
So if you're in the area, I would love to actually meet you face to face and bring the book. We'll definitely get it signed for you.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for joining tonight. And so this is Tracer Round signing off. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.